Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm up here at the high school waiting on my daughter to get out of the school. She's staying late for some, I don't know. She goes on after school on some days and stays late. So I'm still out here waiting. I was sitting here thinking about what we had, the case we had today. It was pretty amazing. Something that I have not personally haven't seen in surgery before. And I have been working in surgery for about 25 years. I was hired when I was first hired on April of 2000. So been in surgery every day for 25 years. But anyway, have never seen this before. Today we had one of our patients. We actually had 5 surgery patients this afternoon. For one surgeon. I had 2 surgeons today. One of the surgeons had 5 patients. One surgeon had 2 patients. And then we had a little extern girl from the college. She had a patient of her own also. The one dog, though, that was like an amazing thing. It wasn't amazing, but it was so something you don't see every day. So it was scheduled for spay and a tumor removal. So keep in mind, this dog is like crusty, stinky. She bites. She shows her teeth when you come up talking to her and stuff. She's a chow. I think we had her listed at 7 years and something months. I have it written down somewhere in here. But the dog was supposed to be scheduled for the spay and the tumor removal. It had a massive, big, gigantic mass on the abdomen, which they thought was a mammary mass. It was huge. It was like bigger than a grapefruit, like big, gigantic, on the outside of the lower right of the abdomen. So the surgeon was saying, I'm probably gonna spay that dog before I do the. No, what he said? He first walked up and he said, I'm probably gonna take that tumor before I spay that dog, because when I spay her, it's gonna be in my way. And then we were knocking her out, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then he was like, hey, Deb, is that mass, is it hard or is it soft? And I was feeling, I said, it feels pretty soft. It doesn't feel hard. Okay, we still prepping, knocking her out. We get her, she's knocked down, and that's time we're prepping, getting everything ready to get her to go into surgery. And then he comes down, walks down to the end of the dog where the mass is, puts his hands on it, and starts feeling around on it. He hadn't even been touching it 1 minute, and just as soon as he put his hands on it and feeling around, he's like, I don't think this is a tumor. And then he's feeling on it, and then next thing you know, it's not there no more. And it was gigantic, big. Next thing you know, it's just flat, and it's not there. He's like, I don't think this is a tumor. He's talking about, this is a hernia, and I've already reduced it. And then we was like, dang. So I was like, oh, she has a hernia in her abdominal wall, and it was like her fat or intestines were poking through. So that's what he's thinking. It's a hernia. He's like, well, I'll go ahead and just spay her, and then I'll repair the hernia after the spay. So we get her in surgery, get her. Oh, and before that, keep in mind, I had already said, do you want to go ahead and express her bladder? Because we express the bladder on all our patients for spay before we take them into surgery, just so the bladder is not in the way for the surgeon. Once they cut, they don't need it in their way. So he expressed the bladder, but really nothing came out, just like a drip, one little drip, nothing come out. And he said she didn't have a bladder to express, it was small. So we move on into surgery, get her in there. He's already made his cut. He's in. Then he's like, next thing, he's spaying the dog. Then he's gonna, next thing we know, he pulls out the gigantic bladder. The dog's bladder was so huge. So all this time, they thought that this dog forever had this giant mass on its abdomen. Really, it was its bladder had poked through the abdominal wall and was sitting outside of the body on the lower abdomen. Huge. It was her bladder the entire time. And I had asked him, I said, do you think that she always feels like she has to urinate? And he was like, well, I know she must feel something not right. And then I was like, do you think that she ever completely empties her bladder? Because it was so big and it was on the outside of her body wall. And he said, I don't think she's ever completely emptied her bladder. He's like, that's why when I tried to express her bladder, there was nothing to express because it was all sitting outside of her abdominal wall. It was crazy. And so he just, once he had the bladder outside of the abdomen, he just manually expressed it, and it just, leaked all up under the table. We had a trash can under there catching it. But the bladder was so big, and it wasn't even tight. It was just huge and baggy. That's the only way I can describe it. It was not tight like you would think a full bladder would be huge and tight. No. Huge and then loose. Just like extremely stretched out. So I don't know how that's going to be. But he spayed the dog. He got the bladder back inside the abdomen, and he closed the hernia hole. We saw it. He had it out. The hole through the abdominal wall was like this, it was like pretty good size. So he closed that off. It was crazy. I've never seen a dog with the bladder on the outside of the body like that. And nobody knows how long it's been like that, but today it's been fixed, and so she is in recovery now, and she should go home this afternoon. And that's it, guys. See you guys later. Peace.